So first of all, I want to share a little bit about Dr. Pillai in mind science for those of you that are new to us. Dr. Pillai is both a scholar and a mystic. He's from Rameshwaram in South India. And I think some of you could have been already to visit Rameshwaram. How many of you have been there? Only a few? Okay. It's a very powerful vortex. There's a huge Shiva temple there that has 22 wells that have a special kind of sin-dissolving water there. So pilgrims from all over the world will come to this vortex in order to remove the most stubborn karma. So that's where Dr. Pillai was born, and he didn't set foot off that island for 18 years. So he vibrates with a very special energy in order to help people to remove human limitations and to create a new destiny. And he's been doing that in many different ways. He is an international speaker, and in the past 18 years he's been speaking all over the globe and teaching many hundreds of thousands of people. And at the very beginning, Dr. Wayne Dyer became fascinated with his meditations. And Dr. Wayne Dyer actually taught one of his meditations called the meditation for manifesting. He taught this around the world to millions of people. I've been often to Dr. Dyer's presentation. I was the one that sent him an audio tape of that meditation, and those millions of people have had so many miraculous results. So Dr. Pillai is truly an international thought leader, regarded as one of the foremost in the world, who's had a great impact on teaching people how you can use practical, easy, simple techniques based on the ancient wisdom of the Eastern tradition, but that this wisdom can be made very practical to change your everyday life. And Dr. Pillai is extremely practical. He doesn't believe in philosophy because it doesn't bake bread. He wants meditation techniques that give you exact results in your life. You should be able to change everything. Your money, your relationship, your health, every situation in your life should change. And this has happened for many hundreds of thousands of people that I've personally heard of from. And like I said, over millions have practiced. But I want to tell you briefly about my story so that you have a living example of what Dr. Pillai's teachings can do. So I met him 18 years ago, and my life had been a very painful life. I had a very deep heart sorrow where actually for many years I wished that my life would end, but I wasn't going to do anything about it. So the only things I was carrying in my heart every day were a few. Number one, I wanted to be close to God, and I didn't know how to have that experience. I knew that I needed a spiritual teacher, but I hadn't yet found the spiritual teacher that would help me do that. And I wanted to give my life to a great mission like Mother Teresa. And I went around the US looking at different charity organizations, but nothing struck me as being for me. So a point came to my life that was a very painful juncture. I had just gotten married to my first husband, and the day after the wedding, we were driving to a new city where we were to start a new life. We were going there for his work. But he told me that day after the wedding that he didn't like being married to me. And so I felt that really my life was over. I arrived in a new city. I didn't know anyone. I was with this man who didn't want to be married to me. And 2 months later, he just left me one night, and he never came back. So that night, I thought I might die from the pain that I was experiencing. But I made myself a promise that if I lived to see the sunrise, that I would start everything over. So I stayed up all night. I saw the sunrise. And I made my vow. Now it's my time in my life to do everything that I wanted to do. And so in a very magical way, about a few weeks later, I saw a small flyer with Dr. Pillai's photo on it. And he was going to be speaking at a yoga center where I was actually doing yoga at the time. So I went to yoga class a few days later, and who walked in the room was Dr. Pillai And he sat right behind me where I was doing yoga. I didn't know anything about gurus or meditation, Eastern tradition, nothing. In fact, I didn't even know that he wasn't there to do yoga. So I invited him to do yoga. He said no. And then afterwards, everyone left the room. I turned around and we were the only two people in the room. And I asked him very simple questions about who he was and to understand what is a guru. He gave me simple answers, but the most important thing is that I left knowing that I met the most pure being that I'd ever met in my life, and I knew that he was going to change everything. So I went to his event about a week later, and I went forward and said, I have a very deep heart sorrow. He told me that he could solve that with one sound, because it was a spiritual problem. So I met him the next day. He gave me one sound, and everything in my life changed. In terms of meditation, my entire world cracked open, and I had meditation experiences that were obviously from previous births, because I'd never meditated in my life. And I had experiences that I've only read about in many books. But most importantly, I found my life's mission, because about a week later I asked him if I could edit one of the papers that he wrote. He liked what I did, and then he started giving me so many things that I began doing everything for him. I became his personal assistant, and he asked me to organize his tours throughout the US. He had never toured before, so I was the first one to meet him when he only had 5 students, and very fortunate to be able to bring him to the world. So he taught me how to teach meditation to others, and very soon I was traveling along with him, teaching meditation all throughout the US, Canada, Europe, into India, to Singapore. I came here many years ago. And then he left me in India and told me to open up his organizations there to bring foreigners to India and to serve the poor. So I found the love of my life, and that's doing the charity work that we do. And this story has had many magical turns to it. As many of you know, I came here 3 years ago. And I have over 100 children in India. They're at our girls' town and boys' town. We're building entire communities for the poor there, feeding the destitute, everyday people with leprosy, handicapped people that would be starving without us. And we're also opening up tuition centers all throughout this year to teach people at the poorest level these techniques. So I consider my life to have great purpose. It's only becoming more and more an adventurous journey. And today I'm going to teach you the exact steps that Dr. Pillai taught me in order to take a hold of my life and totally recreate it.